Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive into the video, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Let's dive in. She slid my coffee across the counter like a bill she didn't plan to pay and said, "Don't wait up tonight. I'm meeting the girls. You can figure out dinner. It's Tuesday." I told her we always cook on Tuesdays. Jenna didn't look up from her phone. Then cook or don't. I'm not your planner. That was the first clean hit. No anger, no scene, just the feeling you get when the elevator shakes between floors. I stared at the coffee. Same mug, same kitchen, same woman, but no warmth. 2 months before, she was teasing me about oversalting the chili. Now I was a piece of furniture asking for attention. If this is about the budget, I tried. We can revisit the gym membership. And then she laughed, short and mean. The budget? I don't need your spreadsheets, Mark. I need less noise. I held her eyes. There's a difference between quiet and cold. She tucked the phone in her sweater pocket. You're being dramatic. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have stopped that conversation and driven to a hardware store for a new lock. But I thought it was a dip, not a cliff. What happens when the person who promised to love you starts treating you like a stranger in your own home? Keep listening, because this story is about to take a turn you won't see coming. I kept Tuesday. I cooked, ate alone, cleaned up. She came in after 11, smelled like citrus spray, said nothing, and slept with her back to me like the wall had better stories. The next morning, I set my rules. I wasn't going to beg to be tolerated in my own house. At breakfast, Jenna pushed a fork around an empty plate and checked her phone. "You're moving fast," I said, pouring eggs into the pan. She didn't look up. "What? From us to this?" Not judging, just noting the change. "You make everything a meeting." "I'm making it simple. I'll do my food. You do yours. I'm shifting my mornings back to the gym. Don't wait for me. And I'm pulling out of the carpool this week." She blinked. "Excuse me? I'm done playing driver at 6 a.m. for a woman who treats me like a rideshare. You can take your car. We're both adults. So now you're punishing me?" "It's not punishment. It's balance." Her lip twitched. "You never used to talk like a manager at breakfast. I never used to be treated like an intern in my kitchen." She stood. "Do what you want." "I always do." I said nothing, because the old me would have apologized. The new me managed my calendar. She left her mug and a sink full of nothing. I rinsed it all, took a quiet breath, and drove to work without texting her the usual check-in. By lunch, my phone lit up with a message from her. "Transfer the utilities. I'm tired of reminders." I replied, "I'll handle my half. Auto pay efficient." "Jenna, that's not what I asked." "Me? That's what I'm doing." I switched my direct deposit to a separate account that afternoon. No speech, just parts moving to where they belonged. Louise from the next cubicle rolled over in his chair. "Man, you look like you just filed a flight plan." "Just fixing a leak," I said. "You and Jenna okay?" "We're reorganizing." He grimaced. That word never means good things. It means lines are being drawn. He tapped his pen. My ex loved lines. Loved moving them, too. I smiled without warmth. I'm not chasing moving lines. At 3, Jenna texted again. "You and Nate still going to Becca's party on Saturday?" She said we'd bring dessert. "Me, I'll go. If you want dessert, you can bake it or buy it." "Jenna?" Wow. New tone. Me. New rules. She called at 5, just before my commute. "Are you mad at me, Mark?" "I'm not mad. I'm just not offering what's not wanted." "That's not what I meant this morning." "What did you mean?" She hesitated. "You take things too serious." "It was a joke." "Jokes are supposed to be funny." Silence, then a softer angle. "Let me get dinner tonight. I'll pick up that Thai place you like." I let the hook hang. "You never liked that place." "I can try," she said. "I'll be home at 7. That was her first soft landing after I changed the schedule. I recognized the move, but I also recognized I was hungry. She showed up with takeout and a thin smile. No kiss, but no ice. We ate at the counter. "Sorry about earlier," she said, picking at her noodles. "Work has been." "I don't know." "Then say that. Say it to me first next time, not to your phone." Her shoulders rose and fell. "Fine." We ate in the thinnest piece I'd seen in our kitchen. I cleaned up. She retreated to the bedroom. The olive branch didn't grow fruit. It was a prop. But here's the moment everything changed forever. Imagine this happening to you at a party full of friends. The next day, I laid down the second line. Saturdays were no longer joint projects unless we both agreed. No more, we promised, text bombs. She rolled her eyes and said I was becoming calculating. I thanked her for the compliment and booked my own barber at a time that fit me, not her errand map. She didn't laugh. Another log tossed on the quiet fire. By Friday, her mood was a weather pattern I couldn't predict. She was loud on the phone with her sister, quiet with me, sweet when she needed something. The utilities moved. My half got covered on time. She reacted like I'd slapped her because the cover was the point, not the control. Saturday, we drove to Nate and Becca's party in the same car out of habit more than plan. She was scrolling. I was watching lights turn green. You could at least try not to look grumpy, Jenna said, still staring at the screen. I'm not grumpy. I'm awake. Don't start with your definitions. Does honesty count as a definition? Be nice tonight, she said. No weird questions, no calendar talk. I'll be polite. You be present. She smiled without smiling. You don't ask for much. I stopped asking. At Becca's, the backyard was full of string lights and neighbors. Nate gripped my shoulder. He's the kind of friend who fixes your fence and keeps your secrets. You good, he murmured. I'm upright, I told him. Becca hugged Jenna like a stage partner. Dessert's on the table, Becca said. Jenna, the girls are inside. I'll catch up, Jenna said, already walking. Nate watched her go. You want me to run interference? No, I'm not dodging. I'm observing. He scanned my face. That sounds worse. The evening moved in waves. I helped Nate with the grill, shook hands with a neighbor whose name I forgot, and caught Jenna laughing at something a guy in a blue polo said. She didn't stand near me. She didn't introduce me. Not crime level, but loud enough to hear. Becca sidled up. She talks like a public radio host until she doesn't. You too, okay? We're trying a new service plan, I said. She told me you've been intense. Intense is what people call it when you stop doing what they want. Becca's eyes flicked to Jenna. Maybe tonight skip the heavy talks. I didn't bring a sermon, I said. I brought manners. Good, she said and drifted away, leaving the question hanging like a lantern. What happens when one person stops performing? When the music started, people migrated to the patio. Nate dragged me in and I let him. Jenna stood at the edge with the girls. I saw my opening, not for a scene, for a simple, clean connection. I walked up, reached to put an arm around her in a polite, public way, and she stepped back like I'd extended a live wire. Don't, she said. I kept my voice even. Relax. It's a hug, not a hostage situation. She raised her volume, aimed it over the music so the circle would hear. I'd rather hug a skunk. She laughed at her own line. The circle laughed with her. Not all of them, just enough. I froze for half a second. Not sadness, recognition. You only get one of those lines from the person who promised to be your second half. If it lands, you log it or you lose yourself. I took my ring off. No speech, no trembling hands. I dropped it on the wood deck where it clicked, small and final. You and the skunk would make a great couple, I told her. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Heads turned. Someone snorted. Nate's mouth opened and then closed. Jenna blinked like she'd been splashed. Becca whispered, Mark, don't. I am done, I said, not to Becca. I set my drink down on the rail like a man leaving an empty glass and walked straight out the side gate. I heard a laugh behind me. I couldn't tell if it was at me or at the sheer weirdness of a ring on the floorboards. Didn't matter. The night air tasted like a decision. I drove home alone, let myself into the house that had my name on the mortgage, and packed what I'd need. Work clothes, boots, toiletries, passport, a folder with insurance, and the deed copies. I left every sentimental thing on the shelf. I wasn't burning the place. I was stepping out of it. On the dresser sat a photo of us from 3 summers ago. I didn't look at it. I grabbed a small duffel, slid my laptop in, and locked the door behind me. At a budget hotel by the highway, the clerk asked, "How many nights?" "Let's start with a week," I said. The room smelled like generic lemon. I took a shower, set my bag in the chair, and slept like a man who'd finally stopped arguing with the wall. At 8 the next morning, I went for a run, bought bad coffee that tasted honest, and drove to a postal store. I notarized what needed notarizing. I sent what needed sending. I didn't text Jenna. I didn't post anything. I filed paperwork that said end of contract on the marriage that had become a performance. Louise saw me Monday and raised a brow. You moved out. I moved on, I answered. You tell her. She'll figure it out when the house gets quiet enough. For 2 weeks, my phone was a museum piece. Work, gym, sleep, the slow rearrangement of a life. I didn't check her socials. I didn't call Nate except to say I was fine. I ate simple and read instead of arguing in my head. On day 15, Jenna's name lit up my phone at 7:12 p.m. I let it buzz once, then picked up. I believe in clean lines. Where are you? She started. Not at home. You think this is funny? No, you just left. Over a joke. You didn't tell a joke, I said. You told the room who I was to you. That ring thing was childish. That ring thing was adult, I replied. It said I'm not sponsoring disrespect. You're still my husband, she shot back. You don't get to starve the household because you're sensitive. Household? You mean you. I mean groceries, bills. I need the joint card refilled. It won't be. My half of the bills are on auto. The rest isn't my problem. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm done doing for you. So, you're quitting on us. There is no us that needs support right now. There's you enjoying a comfortable setup and me financing it while you treat me like a spare chair. I won't fund that. I filed already. You'll get the papers. You filed, she repeated like the word had teeth. Last Monday. You're insane. This is because I didn't want to hug on a patio. You want to throw away years over a dumb line. Years don't outweigh respect, I said. And it wasn't one line. It was a pattern. The line just had a microphone. You're exaggerating. I'm done explaining. I ended the call. Not mid-sentence. Not angry, just done. She called again. I let it go to voicemail. She texted a set of long paragraphs where apologies swirled with blame. I didn't answer. That was my third rule. No discussion by essay. 2 days later, she tried a new angle. I was walking from my truck to the office when I saw Jenna waiting by the curb. She'd done her hair in a way she knew I noticed. She had my favorite bakery's bag in her hand. Louise, already outside, muttered, "Oh," and retreated like the smart man he is. She stepped forward with a practiced small smile. You look thin. I look like a man on his own schedule. I brought muffins. Blueberry. We can talk. Keep them, I said. I'm not taking gifts with strings. Can you stop with the cold act? She said, voice low. I'm trying. What are you trying to do? Fix this. What's this, Jenna? She swallowed. You being mad. Look, I'm sorry about Becca's party. I said a dumb line. You embarrassed me walking out like that. You embarrassed yourself, I said. I just left the scene. She pushed the bag toward me. 20 minutes. We sit in your truck. We talk. We eat. No phones. Here's my answer, I said, holding the door to the building. You need money? Get a job. You need me? Respect me. I'm not your bank. Don't come here again. So that's it, she said. You're ditching me because you finally grew a spine. I had one the whole time, I said. I just stopped bending it for you. I never asked you for anything. You asked for everything and called it nothing. She dropped the bag on the ground. The box slid out, a muffin rolling under a bench. Pick that up, I told her calm. Don't leave your mess for someone else. She stared, then crouched and collected the debris. You're cruel. I'm clear. Everyone says you're overreacting, she tried. Everyone didn't marry me. And they didn't make that joke on a patio. She straightened. I'll talk to Nate. I'll talk to your mother. Talk to the mirror, I said, and stepped through the door. She didn't follow me inside. That was the point of doing it at my office. Neutral ground with witnesses and a clock. That afternoon, Haley, my boss, hovered at my cubicle. She's all business and sober shoes. Is there anything HR should know? No, I said. She came. I declined. It's over. Haley nodded. Keep your cool at the building. I support boundaries, but I prefer them off the property. Understood. Jenna didn't come the next day. She called that night and I ignored it. Then she switched tactics again. This time, a flood of sweet texts, old photos, offers to cook if I came home, promises to try counseling, to try weekends without phones, to try anything once. It was pure velvet. The second illusion of change, more elaborate than the first. The difference was the timing. It arrived when the utilities bounced because the joint card wasn't being used for her plan. It arrived when the salon appointment had to be canceled. It arrived when she realized my separation wasn't a bluff. I didn't rub it in. I just didn't move. A week later, an envelope landed at her parents' address because she'd stayed there a couple nights after I moved out. Nate texted me a simple, "You did what you had to do." I answered with a thumbs up. We're men in our 40s. We don't write poems. The divorce wrapped quietly. No courtroom theater. No forensic fights. The house was mine before, and the paperwork recognized it. My truck, my tools, my accounts. She kept her car and a box of decor I never understood. I moved back into my house 30 days after the patio scene with a key that always fit. The first morning back, the quiet felt good. Not empty, just honest. I made 2 eggs, fixed the loose cabinet hinge that had been squeaking all spring, and took a call from my mother where she asked if I was okay, and I told her I was better than okay. I was accurate. Jenna didn't show up again. The last time I saw her was from across the parking lot at a grocery store. She was with her mother, hair pulled back, walking past the frozen foods with her purse clutched high. She didn't see me. I didn't wave. Let me back up to fill in the pieces that pushed me from the kitchen to the patio to the hotel. Because it wasn't one insult and a dramatic exit. It was a string of small tests I kept passing by failing to notice what they were. Early on, Jenna's goal was simple. Comfort. Comfort at my expense. The tone shifted from we to I with phrases like, "I carry the load." Even when the load was my wallet covering dinners she forgot her card for. If I pushed back, she floated jokes about my spreadsheets and bedtime rules. If I gave in, she added new preferences like mandatory brunches with couples I didn't know. When I drew a line, separate food, separate rides, she tried a softer voice and showed up with Thai. When I moved the money into clean channels, she called me cold and came with muffins. Both times she wasn't apologizing. She was negotiating for a return to the package she liked. When I put the ring on the floor, I didn't know if I'd pick it up later. I just knew it didn't belong on my hand in that backyard. The hotel wasn't escape. It was a staging area. 2 more scenes make the picture complete. After she came to my office, Becca called that night. "She's freaking out," Becca said. "She says you're humiliating her." "I'm not hosting a contest," I told her. "I'm choosing a life." She says you cut her off. I cut off a behavior. There's a difference. Can you at least talk to her with a mediator? Nate, me. I'm not interested in getting voted into my own marriage, I said. Becca sighed. You know, she wasn't always like this. Neither was I said. We both made choices. Mine now is simple. Will you come to my kid's birthday next month? She asked, suddenly human and small. If there's no patio speeches, I said. She laughed despite herself. I'll put the skunks in the garage. The second scene was the day Jenna finally stopped coming. She waited outside my gym at 6 a.m. in sweats and no makeup, which used to be a thing I loved because it was real. She walked up fast. I get it, she said, breath cloudy in the cold morning. You're angry. You have every right. I was cruel. I'm sorry. I nodded. Thank you. I want to fix it, she said, eyes bright. Move home. We can reset. I'll stop with the comments. I'll mark it all. I'll show you. I believe you want what you want, I said. And I respect the effort, but I don't return after a public drop. Not to prove a point, to protect myself. She stepped closer. So, this is forever? Yes. How can you be so final? Because I waited long enough to be sure. Her mouth tightened. What about the house? What about everything? It's handled. She stared at the ground and then at me. I didn't think you'd actually do it. That's the problem, I said. You thought I'd never enforce the rules. She nodded like she'd heard it before in another life. Then quiet. Can you help me for a month? Just the card until I sort things. No, I said. Please. No, I repeated, not louder, just simpler. She looked at the parking lot at the early sunlight sliding over the hoods. Then we're strangers. We're adults, I said. That's better. She walked away. Not dramatically, not stumbling, just a steady walk of someone who understood the game had ended and the house lights were coming on. A week later, the documents reached her. Another week, my key worked in the lock and her name didn't live here anymore. Nate and Louise helped me move a couple boxes back from the storage unit. We ordered pizza and didn't talk about feelings. Bedroom looks bigger, Louise said. House looks cleaner, Nate said. Life looks accurate, I said, and they clinked their cans to that. When I woke alone in my bed, the quiet was mine. I went to work, came home, sat on my porch, answered emails. Haley dropped by my desk and said I seemed lighter. I told her I was just sleeping better. She nodded with that look bosses get when a problem stops being a problem on company time. 2 months later, I met Claire at the farmer's market. She sells plants and doesn't tolerate nonsense. She asked if I knew the difference between rosemary and thyme. I told her yes and pointed to the labels. She laughed at the answer and invited me for coffee. We've been seeing each other weekends. No vows, no speeches, just two grown people who show.